Welcome to Guided by Third Wheel, the podcast. My name is Amber Ireland, and I'm here with my co-host, Jill Bucaro. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Guided by Third Wheel. I don't know exactly how to say what we're going to talk about, but I'm going to take you guys on a journey, and then we're going to talk about it. I just got back from a week-long trip with my mom, and I flew out to Seattle, and we visited my grandfather and my step-grandma, who's been my step-grandma my whole life. She's like my grandma. I am so lucky and privileged at the age of 36 to have living grandparents. I think that's pretty rare. And we went out and visited my grandpa and grandma, who are 89 and 91 respectively. They are rock stars. They hiked around the Olympic National Park with us, and we spent some time at their home in Seattle. And it was a very fun trip. It was absolutely beautiful. Highly recommend the Olympic Peninsula if you've never been. And I got to check another national park off my bucket list, which was cool. I was fortunate enough to have a really thoughtful conversation with my grandfather a couple nights ago, and I wanted to unpack and reflect on that today. My grandpa has had a very, very interesting 92 years of life. He was actually born in rural southern Illinois in a one-room log cabin with no electricity. He grew up super poor. He has memories of his mom making him a large sandwich. She would take 2 pieces of bread and smear lard for calories and protein, and that's what he would eat for the day. He did all the things. He did night school and put himself through college. He was a minister for a long time, because I think when you grow up in the hills of southern Illinois in the 30s and 40s, there's not a whole lot of career options available to you. He was a professor, and he ended his life doing planned giving and philanthropic work, essentially helping rich people spend their money on good things, right? And leaving a legacy. So because he has such an interesting story, in the last couple decades of his life, he has worked on a memoir, and he has literally a 400-page book about his life, and he ends it with some philosophical thoughts, and he talks about at the end his guiding values, and then his thoughts on some of the questions that I feel like we talk about on here. What is the meaning of life? What are we doing here? Is there a God? What does he conceive that God to be? Why is there suffering in the world? And he had asked me to read those final 2 chapters so we could chat about it. So I read the 2 chapters, and the one chapter was on guiding values. And I thought he divvied it up really nicely. And he says in his eyes, there are 3 things that we should be doing with our lives. And the first one is purposeful work. So purpose, vocation, doing work every day that feels meaningful to you, that feels like you're contributing to society. The second one he talked about was, he called it political engagement. I would say the way he described it was more like civic engagement, giving back to your community, organizing for change, identifying what could make our world or your small world a better place. Right. And then the last one he talked about was philanthropy, which is very much what he did in his life, but talked about being giving of our time, giving of our resources, and just giving to others. I loved all 3 of those things. All of those 3 things resonated with me. What did stick out to me, and what I said to him, is these are 3 wonderful values. These are a way to sum up of what we should be doing in the world. But where is the piece about how we should be? Right. For a long time for me, and now I can say I've come by it honestly, I never thought I was worth being unless I was doing. Right. And I said that to him, and he was taken aback for sure. And he even said, at 92 years old, he essentially was like, I don't know if I'm good enough if I'm not doing something.
Is he also a 2?
I don't know if he's a 2. You're like, what is his Enneagram? But I was just like, wow. And it just took me on a journey of, one, clearly this is a very common human experience, or the belief that being equals doing, that we exist in this world to do things, and that if we're not doing something, what the fuck are we doing?
And what a beautiful illustration of a generational belief.
Yes.
That came to you that you didn't even realize. You probably never realized that your grandpa felt that way. You probably saw him as successful and just thought, he knows who he is. because he knows his worth, right? But that came to you that way. And how you have been able to break that generational trend for yourself.
At least I'm thinking about it, right?
Well, more so than, you're 92 years old, and I've not even thought about whether or not I'm worthy without all these things.
Exactly. That am I worthy of taking up space in this universe,
right?
If I'm not working, giving, volunteering, etc. On one side of my family, my grandparents are immigrants. They came here and had the privilege and ability, because of where they came from, the color of their skin, to pull themselves up by their bootstraps to achieve that kind of American dream that I recognize is only accessible for some people. And then on my other side, both my grandparents were born in houses in the hills without electricity, and all became very successful. Right. My grandpa has been truly in this grind of trying to break into spaces and do things that no one in his family ever did before.
Right.
And I know what that feels like, to be in rooms where it doesn't feel like I'm worthy of being there, right? And just to carry some of that, those feelings of inadequacy, that I don't deserve to be here unless I'm hustling to prove why I deserve to be here. And like you said, it's just interesting, the things that we carry from our family members.
Right.
It helped me realize, man, maybe some of this baggage, maybe it's not all mine that I'm holding. I felt really grateful of being able to recognize sometimes, even if I only know it to be true in my head, I am still worthy even if I'm not doing anything that somebody would deem productive today. Right. I still can take up space in this world. It was a heavy conversation, an interesting thing. And I wonder, is that something that everybody deals with? Clearly it's something that people in my family deal with, this culture of productivity. On the other side of my family, we joke about this all the time. My brother was 6 or 7 years old, and he was on the phone with my grandparents, my other grandparents. And they're like, what are you doing today? And he's like, I don't know, nothing. And my Amma, that's what we called her, my grandma, she goes, well, what do you want to be, a bum? That was just the whole culture of my life, was you better get busy doing something.
And I think that's a culture within families for a whole host of reasons. But I think just as a collective culture, especially in America, that is the culture. You better be doing to get where you want to be. And then you got to do more to keep it or to get to the next place.
Sure.
It's not about be yourself and you'll get where you need to be. It's like you better strive, you better push, you better be grinding all the time. You better always be thinking about the next step in order to do it. In families, it plays out differently. And maybe some people have a little bit less of it because maybe their family has adopted more of the be who you are and everything will work out type of a mindset. I think that right now in this space, I do feel like there is a bit of a shift because I think people are tired of that.
Yes, I think people are tired, period.
So we're starting to see people step a little bit more into this. I'm going to be who I'm going to be, and it's going to be okay, right? And other people recognizing it as such, because that's the thing. I don't think we're completely out of the space of needing that external validation.
Sure.
Right? So we need somebody to say, it's okay for you to be who you are, and everything is going to be okay, along with you believing it. So I don't think we're all the way there to where I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and I'll be fine. We still are looking for the external validation to say, like, yes, that's okay. Which goes back to that same striving mentality, right? It's the external validation that you are good enough.
I think there's different layers of that, because forever in my life, I needed the external validation. I needed other people to recognize what I was doing. I think it's fair to say needed called out and for people to praise what I was doing. And I've been able to let go of some of that. But what I still really need, I think, to feel okay, what my little security blanket is, I don't need other people to recognize it, but I need tangible proof that I've done things. I need things checked off the to-do list. I need to be able to look back on my day and be like, okay, well, I did X, Y, and Z. Maybe I didn't do any work today, but I meal prepped and I cleaned and I organized this and I got my car filled up with gas and I ran these errands. I've gotten to the point where I don't need somebody to be like, Jill, it's okay that you didn't work because you did this. Because there truly was time in my life. I needed recognition that I had an okay day. But I still struggle with needing the tangible proof that I'm not a lazy piece of shit, that I'm not like doing nothing with my life. And and that's like those three things that my grandpa identified are things that you can look back and look at what I did today. I worked, I volunteered, I gave money, I made calls for a political cause that I'm passionate about. If we don't need the validation, we still need the tangible proof that we're good enough.
And I don't know that that's ever going to go away because we always want to see progress. We're humans and we want to see progress in ourselves. But that can look tangible in the sense where it's material and I can have a checklist. But that can also look like reflecting back a year ago and being like, wow, I'm not struggling with the same things I was struggling with because I've been pouring into myself for this last year and working on that. And that should be enough because that's what's going to propel you forward into all of the tangible things that you want, right? Is that working on yourself to get to the place where you can actually hold space for that thing that you want. The reason you didn't have it before was because you weren't ready to hold it. If you would have gotten it, you would have lost it because you weren't ready.
Right.
So you're preparing yourself to get there. And I think sometimes it's that shift in mentality that now that I have this tangible thing, that's great, but I've done the work to be able to hold it and to receive it. And being able to see the being part of that tangible thing opposed to that tangible thing is the check mark.
Sure. It reminds me of what I say to social workers or people in the field that I mentor is I tell them you cannot ride the highs and lows with clients of their daily experiences. You cannot judge somebody's progress based on how they're acting at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, August 22nd. The beauty of doing the kind of work that we do for a long time is you have the ability to look back and you have the ability to reconnect with people you've worked with and you can see, oh my God, look how much they've changed in the last 3 years.
Right.
Look how different things are 6 months later.
Right.
Because if you rode those ups and downs of that not linear progress with them, you have nothing but anxiety, dread, disappointment, elation, right? You're riding the roller coaster with them. And sometimes I think I do that with my whole life. We've all seen the little memes, it's not a bad life, it's a bad day.
Right.
And sometimes I need to take that advice that I give about working with people and remember that I too am a person that I am working with.
Right.
And that I cannot judge. I can't just deeply feel every valley and every high of the normal human experience.
Right.
And judge my worthiness based on those feelings that I'm having.
Right. We all get into the place where everything is shit and we get in our mind and we're spiraling. If we zoomed out, would be absolutely no good reason.
We're not even going to remember it. And I say that to myself sometimes. Jill, are you going to remember being behind on this memo? Are you going to remember the day you didn't answer the email from 4 days ago?
Right.
No, you're not going to remember that shit. Nobody's going to remember that shit. So why are you torturing yourself?
Also, don't torture yourself about it in the moment and decide you're going to zoom out and be like, where was I a month ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And can I be grateful for where I am right now?
Yes.
What has changed in my life? Even if everything looks like shit. If that had happened 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to bounce back because I didn't have the skills back then.
Yes.
So now, what am I worried about? I got everything I need. I built myself to this place. I've done the work. I've gotten here. And being able to see that and seeing the being of you opposed to just the external validations or the external things that look like they're shit right now.
Yes.
And using that to determine your worth opposed to what is actually true is here I am dealing with a hard situation and I can fucking deal with it.
Right, because our worth doesn't hinge upon what we do, it hinges on who we are.
Right.
We're always trying to manage and control and hold tight to the things that are fleeting, things that we have no control over, as opposed to grounding into ourselves. And like I said, my grandpa has a beautiful story. He's an excellent writer. Those last 2 chapters were very eloquent, and I feel like he and I agree on a lot of things about life's hardest questions. But I read it and I was just like, there is something major missing here because this is only about doing. This is only about output. right? And what's missing, or maybe what wasn't articulated, is the essence of being and existing and our input. How are we showing up in this world? What are we trying to embody? Because to me, when you get that straight and when you ground into that, that's going to affect your doing. It was an interesting conversation to have. And I just thought, oh my God, everybody is fucking dealing with this shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
All of us are out here thinking we're not good enough because we didn't do our dishes today.
The older you get and the more successful you become, success doing air quotes, success being that the world is telling you you're successful.
Sure.
Because of your career, because of accomplishments that they can see externally. The higher that gets, if you don't have a good sense of who you are, it becomes harder and harder to strive and to do those things every day. Because how am I going to top the last thing?
Right.
Because that's all you're focused on, is how am I going to top the last thing so that everybody knows that I am good enough.
That I am growing, that I am getting better. Yes, there's so much anxiety. And I remember when I finally was able to let go of some, live with less anxiety. I'm not constantly looking for something to fill me up. It is like an addiction. You get a hit, I need another one. And it is a vicious cycle.
And if you're always striving to have the validation, the external validation, then you're just going to be chasing it. But if you can strive because you know that your internal worth is what it is, the doing becomes a byproduct of the being, opposed to the being the byproduct of the doing. Then you flip that and you don't end up with all the anxiety to do. You know that you just have to be, and if you are being who you are, the doing will come and will be what it needs to be.
And it just makes the doing easier. Because you're grounded into your values, you're grounded into who you are as a person, you are being honest. When you're being, you don't have to spend so much time on the managing, manipulating, and controlling. Because you're leading heart forward, essence forward, you forward. It must be hard. I know it's fucking hard because I did it forever of doing it backwards.
And it's also hard to flip it, because if you've spent your whole life the doing being what you are focused on and you're not focused on the being, you get to a place where it's like, God, I'm exhausted, I'm anxious, I'm constantly striving, there's not enough hours in the day. You get to a breaking point where you're finally just, I've got to figure this out. But being able to get back to the being is also hard.
For sure.
I don't want anybody to think, oh, it's just really easy to be and to allow that to drive how you show up in the world. It does sound simple. You should be able to just be without a lot of effort. But changing those mindsets around being allowed to just be, you're going on a deep, dark journey. Take up those layers of all of those stories that you've received generationally and societally that tell you that the striving is what you need to be doing.
Absolutely. This for me was a revelation that came after months and months and months of consistent reading, journaling, pulling cards, reflecting, with really just doing it because I didn't know what the fuck else to do, because I was just in such a deep, dark spot. It's not like I need to do all of this work to learn how to just be. I was like, I'm doing this work so I can make it through the goddamn day. And then all of a sudden, I finally was in a place where I was able to receive that message. So to your point, it's all hard. But it's one of those things, in our work we do this, in our personal life we do this, where we unlock a new level. And the beauty is when you do that, certainly you will stray. Certainly I move into a doing mindset, but I remember what it feels like to be. I remember what it feels like to do it the other way, which makes it a lot easier to get back there.
And I think that's the difference. If we're always striving in the doing, that will always be hard. That will never stop being hard. It will never stop being hard. But getting into the being does become a little bit easier as you start to peel back those layers. But to your point, we get in times of high stress. We get into moments where we are up leveling and we're like, oh shit, what am I doing? Again, what am I doing? And so we start doing, we stop being, because we don't think that we're good enough to be in that spot, and we have to circle back.
We have to come back. Right, and we're going to get triggered. We're going to have things that throw us off. We're going to have things that rub up against a core wound, and we're going to lose all of our grounding and all of our footing. But that is why you do the work, because it's easier to get back to where you were. That's
if you've
why you
experienced
have to do it.
Yeah, if you've experienced it, you can get back to it.
Absolutely. I believe so many delusional things about my life when I look back. And I really did believe, oh my gosh, this all makes sense, this period of revelation, this enlightenment. And I would think, of course I'm always going to feel this way. Of course I'm always going to carry this wisdom. And then 6 months later, my eyes are glazed over, I'm foaming at the mouth, I'm like fucking crazy, and I've forgotten it all. But to your point, it's so much easier to remember it. And I've said this before, I think, because I love it, but there's this video clip of something where there's a bunch of guys sitting around and they're like, what's the one thing you would tell a younger you? And they say, this too shall pass. All of the bad things, this too shall pass. Right. All of the good things, all of the moments where you're like, man, I've made it. Right. I'm here. This too shall fucking pass. It is all fleeting. It is all a journey. We're like, yes, I'm doing it. I'm being. Well, you're not going to be doing that forever. So you're going to have to come back.
Yeah. What do you think, as far as working on being more present with yourself opposed to striving for the external validation? What do you think is one or two things that really helped you do that or set you on that path? The most influential things, I guess, that would have moved you into that space.
Yeah, I think to me a big piece of it is learning how to love yourself. Despite your imperfections. Yeah. One of the stories I lived with for a long time is I must be perfect in order to be lovable. I have to look perfect. I have to act perfect. I have to guess and then meet and exceed all of this other person's expectations. And I think I felt that way because I didn't love myself. I was my least favorite person. Yeah. And so in that time leading up to the revelation about being, I was working a lot on loving myself and understanding, yes, I've misstepped. Yes, I've hurt people. Yes, I wish I could go back and do things differently. Yes, I've lied. I've cheated. I've manipulated. I've done all of these things, but that I still am worth loving. Right. And I think once I was able to do that, then it's like, oh, there is space for me in this world as I am. I don't have to constantly hustle to make the space. That was a big piece of it. And I do think as you get older, as you are a human for longer, you see people, and you see some people that just don't lead or show up with values. They show up with fear. They show up with feelings of inadequacy. They show up wanting everybody to like them. They show up people pleasing. They show up codependent. And these are all things I've showed up with as well. But then I want to show up at the end of the day, if you're mad at me, if you hate me, if you feel like I fucked something up, if I did fuck something up, at the bottom of it, I want to know that I showed up and did the best I could and was as honest as I could be and came with pure intention. That's what I think about when I walk into a hard situation, when I walk into a hard conversation, when I have that nasty shame in my belly where I'm going to disappoint somebody. I think, no, I'm showing up with good intentions, guiding with honesty and thoughtfulness and doing the right thing. And I just focus on that input. Is there anything you look at it differently?
For me, the biggest thing that has helped me, obviously, you do work. You sit with yourself, you journal, you reflect, you talk to other people, you process your feelings, you start to recognize that you're actually having feelings. Because some of us don't. Some of us are like, no, I don't have any feelings about that. But really we do. We've just shoved them down so far that we don't recognize it, and then they bubble up and we don't know what to do with it. So we just spiral out of control. But the thing that helps me the most is to zoom out of whatever is going on. Because when I can zoom out, it clears up all those stories. Whatever story I'm trying to live in, whether it's a story of you're not good enough or an abandonment story, everything is going to end for you if you don't do this thing, if you don't produce, if you don't chase. If I zoom out, I see all of the evidence as to why that's not true.
Mm.
And I can also see the evidence in my life where I built that story. And some of that evidence was true at that time. Was it true because I wasn't worthy or whatever? No. It just happened that way, and then that's how it's stuck in my brain.
Sure.
But I can look at my life and I can be like, no, where you are right now is different. That story is not valid anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing that can pull me back down and ground me, when I can zoom out and be like, no, this is not true. Now you're feeling the feelings you're feeling. Let's go ahead and feel through that and let that go, because I'm really good at, let me zoom out. Oh, that's not true. And let's stuff that feeling down into a box and tie it up with a bow of the zoom out, and then I'd carry it along with me so that it can bubble over later. But I think those are the two things, is that zoom out and then go ahead and feel through this feeling.
Yes, just because the feeling might be somewhat irrational once you look at the evidence doesn't mean it's not valid. Doesn't mean it's not worth honoring and feeling and moving through.
And then once I do that, normally then I know exactly what I need to do to honor the being.
Yes.
Opposed to flipping it and being like, what do I need to do over here? What does that striving look like for me? I'm not going to be, I'm just going to do.
Right. Sometimes I have no patience for myself. Right?
Yes.
I look at the evidence, like you said, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, Jill, why are you so anxious? Why are you so crazy? Why are you still carrying this old wound around? Of course people like you. Stop. I get so exasperated and impatient with myself, which isn't surprising because I get exasperated and impatient with a lot of people and a lot of things. I think that's just part of my temperament. But that is one of the things when I talked about loving myself that I had to get better at is being patient with myself because I was so irritated that like I would have a feeling when there was like a clear solution and next step forward that, to your point, I just shoved it down. And then 2 weeks later, why is this bubbling up? Why am I, flipping out? That's been a big one for me too, is to be patient with myself.
And be patient with the fact that you might have the feeling for a little while.
Yes.
And it's going to take a little while to move through it, because that's where my impatience comes. I see the feeling, I'm like, okay.
Right.
And why 2 hours later do I still have this fucking feeling? I have no patience for dealing with it, processing it, pulling away the layers of it. I'm like, it's been 60 minutes. This is enough.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to shove it into the box, because we should be done.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I've even said things to myself. I've had a big loss. I've had something not go the way that I want. I've had a breakup. And I have said out loud, like a raving ass lunatic, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm not going to be sad about this anymore. I'm done. And that is not being. That is not honoring who you are.
No.
That is not loving who you are. Because I'm just, okay, this has taken up enough of my time. How many times have I said that? You know? And it's like, well, clearly there's a reason.
We can deal with it in different layers for a while. Maybe this first initial lay down on the floor and cry layer is only going to need to last for 24 hours. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to still have some more that I've got to pick away at for the next few weeks and months. And that's okay. I can't just be like, well, I spent 24 hours crying about this, so of course it's done.
I'm done.
It's not a checkbox necessarily.
Yes. No, I'm like, well, the grief is over. On we press. We say this all the time. It's a never-ending journey, and clearly one that people are wrestling with 92 years later.
We talk about it being a never-ending journey, but you're alive. The journey doesn't stop as long as you're alive.
Exactly. So of course we're still thinking about these questions, right? And still thinking about, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm here this time around on this earth. Do you want to pull a card for us?
Sure. We're going to pull a card from our angelic activations, which I don't think we've done on the podcast before. And these cards are kind of cool because they've got a picture on one side and they've got words on the other side, and then they've got the book with them, so it's a lot of information. But as we do, let's take a deep breath together and release. And we'll set the intention that you'll receive exactly what you need from this podcast, from this card pull. Then maybe you'll think about how you can just be.
All right. Well, there it is.
So we've got the Holy Amethyst. You are the light. You are the light. You have a light within you, and this light will never go out. Whenever you face darkness, this brilliance has the opportunity to shine. Right now, God and the angels are calling you to switch your light on full. Stand in the greatness of your spirit. Do not back down, and be the bringer of good that you were born to be. And it says, I am a light of hope in the world.
Be yourself.
And it says right here, this very last sentence, I will say it again. Stand in the greatness of your spirit. Do not back down. And be the bringer of good that you were born to be.
Don't do the good. Don't go forth and do. Go forth and be. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Guided by Third Wheel, the podcast. We would be honored if you would like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, be well.